and I couldn't find it. If somebody can, send it to showtips@infowars.com. I know the audience can. I know you live in the town. You'll remember the actual headline. But it said zoning authorities entering homes. And the article described the elderly couple waking up with zoning people with police standing at the foot of their bed at 5:30 a.m. saying, don't worry, don't get out of bed. We're here to check your toothbrushes. And if you have more than 2 toothbrushes, but your house is zoned to have 2 people in it, they fine you. I'm not joking. Well, that's what the cops are doing now. They just come in your house.
Alex Jones.
The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231. I love how I said I'll take calls and the phones fill up. I haven't given the number out yet, which guarantees it's going to be regulars or folks who've been trying for months. But we'll get a lot of people a chance to get involved here in this hour. Got a lot of news on the economy, some good news on the NDAA front, some bad news on Obama declaring himself supreme ruler. We've got Bernanke saying we have an increased possibility of sudden fiscal crisis. That's all coming up. But right now, let's start taking some calls. Anybody concerned about the government saying you can't have your kids do chores? Because it won't just be the farms. It'll be everywhere. Big Agro wants it. Anything they can to shut down small farms. They get regulations written that they're not under. It's just total criminality. So the answer is stop buying any of this big corporate stuff. Fight fire with fire. Fight them with your money now before you got to do it with something else. One of the few votes we got left is the money. They can cheat elections. They can do anything. And the scum knows we're waking up, so they're trying to stomp us into submission. Well, in my mind, I think it's going to backfire on them. Mark in Texas, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Alex. Very good to be on. You're a difficult guy to get a hold of. I only have just kind of a general statement to make. I was away from my radio for a while, but I will say this. Based on the comments that I see made on various of these news articles...
Hey, are you hands-free on your phone?
No, I am not. I'm actually trying to break the wind from where I am.
Yeah, it's ruffling. Okay, it's ruffling real bad. Go ahead and make your point.
But anyway, the point is based on the comments that I'm reading out there in the news, there are a great many people very aware of these things, and I find that very encouraging. And I share your sentiment. I don't think these people are going to get away with what they're doing. I think it's I could state how outrageous it is, but that would be to overstate the obvious. But I also wanted to just take the opportunity, since I have for a long time tried to get into this show, and just express to you my personal thanks. I've been listening and watching you from way in the beginning, brother, and I'm really pleased with your progress, and I'm pleased with the results of your efforts. And you do not stand alone when it comes to speaking the truth and sharing it willingly and unafraid. So thank you.
Well, thank you. What do you make of the announcements that they're having Russian troops to target terrorists in America as part of drill? And this is mainstream news. They're very, very proud of it.
Well, obviously, this is very troubling. This is almost like you're going to wake up at some point, and you're going to hope to wake up from a very bad, strange, twisted dream. But
isn't that what's happened in all these other countries? Cambodia, Cuba, Russia, China, Eastern Europe, all over Latin America, all over Asia. This is how the rest of the world lives. Our forebears weren't perfect, but they fought to have rule of law, to keep government small, and to defend individual liberty. You get rid of that, you're in a world of hurt.
Right, and we are, as I think you've said before in the past, and it's certainly true, we stand as an exception to the rule, or we did. We're sliding ever so quickly into becoming the rule of the rest of the world, and I doubt, frankly, that will be successful. I just don't look forward to the types of things that will be necessary to keep that from happening, and I certainly hope I'm wrong about that. But
well, God bless you, my friend. How long have you been watching or listening to the show?
Watching and listening to you off and on probably for the better part of 14 or 15 years.
Wow, so you've seen a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah. And I've been one of those that's been on again, off again. With I call it being on the reservation, off the reservation. I've made some voting mistakes in my past, as a lot of conservatives probably have.
Well, you want to believe things are going to get better, but They're not. Ron Paul really won the first states. He was the guy. He could have been our president. We could have reversed it. But the criminals who've been caught committing thousands of other crimes are stealing the election. George Soros is involved with the Spanish company that's going to count most of the votes. We've just got to admit it's all a fraud. We were taken over. We've got to admit that to ever be able to get it back.
Head out on the highway,
looking for freedom,
looking for adventure,
and whatever comes our way. Yeah, nothing's gonna make it happen.
Yeah, darling, go make it happen.
Thank you so much for joining us. It is the 26th day of April 2012. And we are continuing with your phone calls and the news. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, I'm going to play for the first time here on air some of the incredible entries that we're getting now, more than 20 a day, by InfoWars listeners who are taking part in the $10,000 cash prize contest to be in the running to be chosen to work here in Austin, Texas at the InfoWars radio/TV/film web system. We're looking for reporters for the nightly news, radio, you name it. One female, one male, $5,000 each. Whoever wins then is in the running, if it all works out, to be reporters here. But I think we're also going to end up having some correspondence. There's just too many good people. Then I have to budget out, you know, whether it'll be consideration for people's sites or their own news systems, them being reporters for us, correspondents. Then there's trying to organize that. Then there's the management of that. But we've got like 500 or more incredible entries, and we have been trying to watch them every day and trying to keep track of them. It's going to take at least a month. When this month ends, you've got until the end of the month to get your video into us. There's banners on the right-hand side of Infowars.com to take part in the contest. You can just link through there and find out all the rules and where to send them and then see all the entries. And then we're going to have to go through these and try to choose who the winners are. This is going to be hard. But I think the second, third, and fourth places, though we didn't have those places, you just got one male winner, one female winner. We're looking for a male and female reporter, two of them. Will be that there'll be more than one winner when it comes to actually working with us and being correspondents. Because a lot of people actually gave us this idea. They said, look, I don't want to move from Seattle or New York or Miami or Dallas or wherever, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Chicago, Kansas City. I don't want to move from where I live, but I'd like to do reports for you. Once a week, once a day, once a month. Hey, knock yourselves out. This is awesome. Be InfoWars correspondents out there. Very, very exciting what's happening, because this, I was really just looking for that native talent out there. This has turned into something a lot bigger. So that's coming up with Rob Newton. We'll continue with calls into the third hour here today. Here's some of the crazy news. Let me just mention it before I go back to your calls. Coming up, Russian troops to target terrorists in America is part of drill. Joint U.S.-Russian anti-terror exercise stokes fears of martial law. Paul Joseph Watson, Infowars.com. And he's got links to mainstream news. I mean, this is in the news. Like, oh, yeah, the Russians are trying to fight us with the government. Well, yeah, the bankers will use anybody they can. It's banker dawn. It's Ben Bernanke dawn. EU calls for Russian airborne troops to take... U.S. calls for Russian airborne troops to take and hold Denver Airport. That's an article here. But I also have... where'd my BBC article? That's the one I was talking about, where the NATO troops took over, in Scotland. We'll just put that back on screen. I guess I gave it to have that added to Paul Joseph Watson's articles. Thank you, sir. There it is. Ukrainian Marines stop drivers in Scotland. BBC, NLE 09, FEMA takes preparation for martial law to next level. I mean, that's the type of headlines here. That is the type of bizarro craziness that we're dealing with. But there is some good news. Now multiple states have done this. This is from the New American. Perhaps prodded by Virginia's success in passing a law preventing the federal government from apprehending and indefinitely detaining citizens of the state without charge, just disappearing you. Where'd Bob go? Well, you know where he went. Don't talk about it or he'll be next. The state legislature of Arizona on Tuesday passed its own anti-NDAA bill. Very exciting. Get to that more later. Meanwhile, here's MSNBC. Obama can't hardly wait The New York Times examines how Obama is using his executive powers as he faces a Congress blocking many of his initiatives. And it goes on to say he can't wait to totally ignore Congress. He's going to legalize the illegals, the article says. He's going to pass gun restriction laws. He's going to shut down more power plants. He's going to ship more jobs to China, paying with taxpayer money to move General Motors to China. I'm not joking. That's Detroit Free Press. I mean, whoa, Twilight Zone. I mean, I just cannot believe how fast this is moving. Meanwhile, Bernanke is now saying they may raise interest rates in 2013 or 2014, but he says the economy's doing great. But while talking to Congress, he sung another tune. For the bankers, it is going great. They are really destroying things to consolidate it. Anti-free market cronies. Look at this. This is CNS News. We're going to play this clip in a moment. Bernanke points to increased possibility of sudden financial crisis. Bernanke said that while nobody knows, really, the stock market's totally rigged. That's even in the news today. When a financial crisis will come, it surely ever closer. And remember, they engineered the crisis in 2008, demanding unlimited trillions. So let's go ahead and play a clip of Lord Bernanke telling Congress this. Here it is. Okay, our computer had a heart attack.
The recent budget outlook by the CBO, one can construct a projection for the federal deficit, assuming that most expiring tax provisions are extended and that Medicare's physician payment rates are held at their current level. Under these assumptions, the budget deficit would be more than 4% of GDP in fiscal year 2017, assuming that the economy is then close to full employment. Of even greater concern is that longer-run projections, based on plausible assumptions about the evolution of the economy and the budget under current policies, show the structural budget gap increasing significantly further over time and the ratio of outstanding federal debt to GDP rising rapidly. This dynamic is clearly unsustainable. These structural fiscal imbalances did not emerge overnight. To a significant extent, they are the result of an aging population and especially fast-rising healthcare costs, both of which have been predicted for decades. Notably, the CBO projects that net federal outlays for healthcare entitlements, which were about 5% of GDP in fiscal 2011, could rise to more than 9% of GDP by 2035. Although we have been warned about such developments for many years, the time when projections become reality is coming closer. Having a large and increasing level of government debt relative to national income runs the risk of serious economic consequences. Over the long term, the current trajectory of federal debt threatens to crowd out private capital formation and thus reduce productivity growth. To the extent that increasing debt is financed by borrowing from abroad, a growing share of our future income would be devoted to interest payments on foreign-held federal debt. High levels of debt also impair the ability of policymakers to respond effectively to future economic shocks and other adverse events. Even the prospect of unsustainable deficits has costs, including an increased possibility of a sudden fiscal crisis. As we've seen in a number of countries recently, interest rates can soar quickly if investors lose confidence in the ability of a government to manage its fiscal policy. Although historical experience and economic theory do not indicate the exact threshold at which the perceived risks associated with the U.S. public debt would increase markedly, we can be sure that without corrective action, our fiscal trajectory will move the nation ever closer to that point. To achieve economic and financial stability, U.S. fiscal policy must be placed on a sustainable path that ensures that debt relative to national income is at least stable or preferably declining over time. Attaining this goal should be a top priority.
Okay, so there you go. And we will go back to your phone calls here in just a moment. In fact, let's do it right now. Mike in New York, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex.
Mick, go ahead.
Glad you got me on, Alex. It's Mick. I got a couple questions here, but just want to say you're doing a great job. Two things, really.